There is someone who cannot get you out of their mind. Not casually, not in the light, forgettable way that ordinary thoughts move through a person and disappear by morning. They think of you the way the ocean thinks of the shore, constantly, with full force, with the kind of relentless pull that geography alone cannot explain and distance alone cannot stop. And the most significant part of what you are about to understand is this: the fact that nothing between you is simple. The fact that something stands between you and full expression of this connection does not mean the feeling is weak. It means the feeling is so strong that it has collided with every wall in their life simultaneously, and the collision is still happening, right now, today, in the private interior of someone who cannot speak what they carry. You did not come across this message randomly. The person who moved through your mind just now, the one whose face or energy appeared the moment this began, they appeared for a reason that is worth understanding completely. Not because the universe operates on mystical whims, but because the human mind, when it is genuinely bonded to another person, returns to that person with a consistency that has nothing to do with choice. You are not choosing to think of them. They are arriving. The distinction between those two things is everything, because what arrives without choice is what the deeper self has not yet released, what remains unresolved, what still carries active emotional charge that has not been fully processed or completed. The connection you feel is real, but there is something specific about this particular bond that separates it from ordinary longing or straightforward attraction. There is a barrier, something that makes this link feel simultaneously undeniable and unreachable, something that creates the particular ache of recognizing someone fully while being unable to simply move toward them without consequence. That barrier is not a sign that the connection is wrong or imaginary, or that you should force yourself to erase it. The barrier is actually the first piece of information you need to understand what this bond is genuinely asking of both of you. Connections that exist in clear, uncomplicated circumstances rarely produce the depth of feeling you are carrying. When two people are simply free and available, and the path forward is obvious, attraction develops along predictable lines. It may grow into something lasting, or it may dissolve without much residue. What it rarely does is reach the profound, disorienting, structurally altering depth of a bond that cannot be straightforwardly acted upon. The restriction itself, whatever form it takes in your specific situation, whether it is someone already committed elsewhere, circumstances that make closeness practically impossible, moral lines that neither of you would cross lightly, or timing so misaligned it seems almost deliberately cruel. That restriction is the pressure that has compressed ordinary feeling into something categorically different. Something that cannot be casually released because it was formed under too much internal force to dissolve without real transformation. This person did not decide to feel what they feel about you. That is one of the most important truths in all of this, and it is the one most people resist because it is easier to believe that feelings are chosen than to accept the unsettling reality that they are not. They were not looking for you. They were not in a position where looking for someone new made sense or felt safe or aligned with the life they had constructed. And then you appeared in their world, and something shifted in them at a level below deliberate thought, below conscious permission, below the reach of the rational self that manages daily life and maintains the structures that keep everything ordered. They noticed you the way you notice when the air in a room changes. Not a dramatic announcement, but an unmistakable shift in quality, in energy, in what it feels like to simply exist in that space. And then noticing became something else. It became attention they did not intend to give. It became care that arrived without invitation. It became the gradual, confounding, deeply inconvenient reality that this person, you, had become someone they thought about with a frequency and an intensity they could not justify to themselves. Carl Jung spent decades studying what happens in the human psyche when something is felt but cannot be expressed. His central finding was not gentle or easy to absorb. What is repressed does not disappear, it goes underground. It accumulates force. It shapes behavior in ways the person cannot see clearly because the shaping is happening below the level of awareness, in the unconscious, where all the feelings that were too large or too dangerous to acknowledge are stored. Every time this person has suppressed what they feel for you, every time they have told themselves it is not real, it is not appropriate, it cannot go anywhere, it must be controlled, they have not reduced the feeling. They have increased its pressure. They have added to a reservoir that has been filling steadily since the first moment they recognize something significant in you. This is why you can sense them even in their silence. This is why the connection does not weaken with distance the way a casual attraction would. What is active in the unconscious of another person does not stay contained within them. It moves. It expresses itself in the energetic atmosphere between two people who share a genuine bond. You feel it in the particular texture of the silence between you, the way it is weighted rather than empty, present rather than absent, full of something unspoken rather than clear of everything unsaid. That is not your imagination. That is your nervous system accurately reading the real emotional content of a situation that logic alone cannot map. On the outside, this person may appear completely composed. They may look as if their life is proceeding normally, as if whatever exists between you is something they have filed away and moved past. Do not trust the exterior. The exterior is managed. The exterior is the result of years of practice maintaining a composed surface, regardless of what is happening underneath. What is underneath, where they live in the private hours when performance is not required, and the structures of daily life fall quiet, is a different reality entirely. In those hours they come back to you. Not because they choose to, because the mind always returns to what it has not finished processing, and everything about what they feel for you remains unfinished. They replay specific moments, not the obviously significant ones necessarily, but the small particular ones that somehow carried disproportionate weight. The way you said something that felt exactly right. The moment your presence created a quality of ease in them that they have not been able to recreate elsewhere. The conversation that moved too quickly from surface to depth, as if the usual period of gradual trust building had been bypassed entirely, as if you had somehow known each other at a level that should have required years to reach. Those moments live in them. They return to them, not out of nostalgia, but because something in those moments was true, in a way that most of their daily experience is not. And the contrast between what those moments felt like and what ordinary life feels like has become harder to ignore with time rather than easier. Here is the second layer of what this connection is revealing, and this one is about you specifically. When you met this person, something in you also changed. Not only in the obvious emotional sense. Something about your standards shifted. Something about what you are willing to accept in a connection quietly recalibrated. You became more aware of what real recognition feels like. The experience of being genuinely seen by another person rather than simply observed, of being understood at the level where your actual self lives, rather than the version of yourself that is constructed for general consumption. Having experienced that quality of seeing, even briefly, even without full expression or resolution, you cannot now pretend that lesser connections carry equal value. You cannot unlearn what real emotional contact feels like. This is one of the most disorienting gifts a connection like this can give. It raises your internal standard in a way that cannot be lowered again by simply deciding to lower it. You know what you are capable of feeling. You know the depth of presence that becomes available in you when you are with the right person. That knowledge is now permanent. It will inform every choice you make in relationships going forward, whether this particular connection ever reaches resolution or not. You are not the same person you were before you met them. The meeting changed the interior of who you are, quietly and completely, the way important experiences always change people from the inside rather than the outside. Jung wrote that when two personalities genuinely meet, not just socially, not just superficially, but at the real level where the actual self resides, both people are transformed by the contact. Neither can walk away unchanged. What you both experienced in your connection was that kind of meeting. The transformation happened. It is not reversible. The only remaining question is what each of you chooses to do with the person the transformation is making you into. For them, this process is happening inside a framework of real constraint. The life they built before you arrived does not simply disappear because you have changed them at a fundamental level. The commitments, the structures, the relationships and responsibilities, and carefully constructed circumstances that make up their daily existence are still fully present and real and weighted with obligation. They are not facing a simple choice between what they want and what they should do. They are facing the specific and exhausting complexity of being a person who has been genuinely changed by an experience they cannot fully act on, who must carry a profound inner transformation while outwardly maintaining a life that was built before that transformation began. This is why their behavior can feel inconsistent. The warmth that appears and then retreats. The moments of genuine presence followed by deliberate distance. The times when you sense the full weight of what they feel, followed by periods when they seem to have constructed a wall of deliberate composure between you. They are not being dishonest. They are managing an internal reality that has no clean solution, no pathway that does not cost something significant, no option that allows them to fully honor both what they feel and what their existing life demands. They oscillate because they are genuinely pulled in opposing directions by forces that are both real and both legitimate. The feeling is real, the barrier is real, the conflict between them is real, and there is no version of that conflict that does not produce exactly the kind of inconsistency you have been observing. What gradually happens inside a person carrying that much unresolved internal pressure is a slow erosion of the reasoning that justifies the distance. Every argument they have made to themselves for why this feeling should be contained, why it cannot be expressed, why the barrier is appropriate and should be respected, every one of those arguments requires effort to maintain. And the effort required grows with time rather than diminishing, because the feeling itself does not diminish. The feeling has, if anything, become more rather than less central to their inner life. The absence of expression has not reduced its significance. It has increased it, because suppression always increases the pressure of what is suppressed, and what was already extraordinary in its initial force has been compressing steadily inside a person who has run out of effective strategies for containing it. There is a point in this process that both people who carry significant unexpressed feelings eventually reach. It is not a dramatic moment. It does not announce itself. It is simply the quiet internal recognition that the cost of containment has finally exceeded the cost of honesty. That whatever consequences might follow from allowing the truth to surface are less unbearable than the ongoing reality of carrying the truth in permanent concealment. That the version of themselves that continues to suppress what is most real and most alive in them is not actually a self they can continue to inhabit without profound loss. They are approaching that recognition. They may not be there yet. Internal reckonings of this magnitude move on their own timeline, resistant to external pressure, immune to being rushed by anyone's desires, including their own. But the direction is unmistakable. They are moving toward the truth rather than further away from it. For you, in this moment, the most valuable thing is not to focus outward on their process or on trying to influence the timing of their arrival at that recognition. The most valuable thing is to understand clearly what this experience has already done for you and what it continues to do. It has given you direct knowledge of your own emotional capacity, not hypothetical knowledge, real, experienced, embodied knowledge of how deeply you can feel, how fully you can be present in a connection, how alive you become when you are genuinely seen. Most people live their entire lives carrying their emotional capacity as a theoretical possibility rather than a lived reality. You have lived it. You have felt what it is to be in the presence of someone who reaches your actual depth. That is not something you stumbled into accidentally. That is something you were ready for, something that your own inner development had prepared you to receive and recognize and be genuinely changed by. The confusion, the waiting, the particular pain of a connection that exists fully on the inside, while remaining incomplete on the outside. None of this is pointless. None of it is happening to you randomly or cruelly. It is happening because genuine transformation, in both people involved in a connection this significant, requires time and pressure, and the specific discomfort of living with unresolved truth long enough for that truth to do its real work. The work is not primarily about the relationship. The work is about who each of you is becoming as the relationship remains in this suspended, pressurized, unresolved state. The relationship is the catalyst. The real change is the person emerging on the other side of the experience. Whatever comes next between you and this person, whether circumstances shift and the barrier dissolves, and what exists between you finally has room to become something fully expressed, or whether the particular form this bond has taken remains incomplete, and the connection lives primarily as an interior reality that shaped both of you permanently. The outcome does not determine the value of what has already occurred. You were changed. They were changed. The quality of emotional truth that moved between you was real. It does not require a specific external resolution to have been significant. It does not need a certain ending to have been worth carrying. But what also remains true is that genuine connections of this depth do not simply dissolve into irrelevance. They reach resolution in one direction or another because the pressure they generate cannot be maintained indefinitely without finding a path forward. The path forward may be toward each other. It may be toward a different kind of understanding and release. What it will not be is an indefinite continuation of the exact present state, because the exact present state is too charged, too unresolved, too actively working on both people to remain static. Something is building. Something is moving toward the surface. Something in both of you is preparing for a confrontation with the truth that has been living underneath everything. When that moment comes, it will not come loudly. It will come in the quiet, in the particular stillness that arrives when all the strategies for avoidance have been exhausted, and what remains is simply what is real. And what is real between you has always been stronger than every attempt to manage it, contain it, rationalize it, or wait it out. Real things do not require force to persist. They simply persist. Underneath everything else, beneath all the silence and distance and complexity and constraint, the truth of what exists between you has been persisting all along, patient, undiminished, still entirely itself, waiting with the quiet certainty of something that knows it does not need to announce itself to continue being real. Trust what you already know. Your inner sense has not been wrong about this. It has been accurate the entire time.